Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of Offerings, the interview and mix series which focuses on creativity within electronic music. Today my guest is the wonderfully talented Fliss Mayo. Fliss, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Rob. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well.
Thanks for getting me down on this gorgeous London November day.
Yeah, it's trying to kill our moods, but it's not gonna.
Nothing will ever kill the mood.
Cool. So I usually start off for those who don't know you or unfamiliar with you. Do you want to give us a quick overview of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Fliss Mayo. That is my government name and my DJ name. I never changed it. Actually, I was something before and I was called Pink Casio, but there was already that name taken because I used to wear a pink Casio.
No.
I know.
That's such a great
it's
name.
such a great name, but there was another Pink Casio. So
Where are they now?
I don't know and I don't care. And
You don't follow their Instagram
no,
weekly
I feel like
to see if they've
it would bring me
deactivated?
it would bring me too much like what ifs, you know.
Better
But
not
yeah,
to know.
I am a DJ and producer. I live in Liverpool at the moment, but I'm originally from London. I've lived in Bristol for a year as well. I'm sure we'll talk about the Bristol part of my life later. I am just an avid music fan first and foremost. I think that is the best description of myself. And yeah, everything else kind of fits neatly behind that.
Awesome. I'm very excited to talk about all of it. One of the places that, the place that I've always started in these interviews is talking about earlier experiences in music and how that led into, or sort of influenced your journey into music. I'm a big sort of believer of we as people are very much influences by experience around us and things like that. So can you tell me some of your earliest memories relating to music?
So it's actually funny that you asked this, and I feel like I get asked this a few times by friends, and sometimes I don't put enough thought into the question because, like, there have been a few like groundbreaking moments where I've been like, oh yeah, like I really like electronic music, and I think one of them was I mean, wait, is this about music or electronic music in general?
To be honest, I'm going to let you flow.
Okay, let me riff.
I'm just going to let you riff.
So, well, I will say that my dad is a massive fan of kind of experimental rock, and I think that's actually come back into my life more recently in terms of I don't know, especially production and kind of thinking about what things that I can pull out of older music. But the electronic side, I think, was randomly, I think I was with another family on New Year's, and I think I must have been about like 11 or 12 or something, 13. And I remember hearing The Prodigy for the first time.
Yeah.
And it was Invaders Must Die. And I just remember being like, what the hell? Like, I've never heard anything like it. I mean, it was punky. And I think because it had all those elements of the stuff that my dad liked to listen to.
I was literally going to say that.
You know
like
what
the
I mean?
rock influence.
Yeah, the rock influence. And then hearing it in a different context of that, like, break beats. I think that was the first time I heard like break beats and really appreciated them, because obviously breaks have been around for ages. But that was the first time I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. And like putting vocals through these like very impressive like compressors, like to make it sound really crunchy and gritty that I've not heard before. And I just remember listening to that album over and over again, like on loop. And that memory recently came back to me. Like, it's not something that I've thought like, oh yeah, pinpoint moment, like I can pin it right down to that. Because I have a more recent memory, and I think I was about 14 or something, and I went to a festival, and there was I'm pretty sure it was the BBC introducing stage at Latitude. and because I think it's just a family friendly one. Me and my dad and like a few other families used to go as a group, and I remember seeing Subtract, and it was a live set right after he did that album like with Wildfire with Jessie Ware, etc. And I saw that as a live set, and he came on with a mask, and he had these like drum pads and stuff, and I remember hearing like the subs that he uses, and it was a pretty good sound system as well. But again, I was really young, and I was quite close to the front, and I just remember hearing this sub like actually like ricochet through my body, and I was like, again, another moment where I just thought, what the hell is this? Like, how does someone physically make this sound? And then like ever since, and then I got really into like basically everything all at once, you know.
Do you think you were maybe drawn to, because I think electronic music in general is quite, there's a sort of elusiveness to sort of how people got there. When you listen to bands or you listen to pop, it's like, okay, guitars, drums, things like I can separate everything. And electronic music, like you were talking about just there, it's quite elusive. How did they get there? How did they make these sounds? Do you think that was like an aspect to it?
Definitely, like hearing kind of like also like hearing how, maybe less so how they got to there, but how they've contextualized it within their own music. So like a sub wouldn't make much sense in like, I don't know, like a pop song, like a sub that literally goes through your body.
I've tried.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
It's crazy, right? And I think hearing like how different, like if you put like a really dirty breaks Prodigy style break beat over a Subtract song, like it wouldn't necessarily match that vibe. And I think it was kind of seeing how people would use really maximal things like a fat sub in really minimal music. So it was for me, I think it was all about context.
Yeah.
I think
fitting the puzzle,
fitting the puzzle, and not necessarily about. I think at first I wasn't that asked about the history of it all. I think that's kind of quite natural. I know other people who feel otherwise and feel a bit different. But at the start, it was all about like hearing these sounds and being just quite mesmerized by techniques and like ways that I just like, I didn't even know how a sound wave was made. And I didn't know how much, but I was thinking like, I physically have never heard any sound like this before. Like, and I think that was the thing that drew me towards it, was the impressiveness of it, you know, the quality. Yeah.
That's really cool. You spoke a little bit about your dad having a bit of an influence. Would you say you have had any more other, or your dad, more influential people who sort of, or mentors, so to speak, that maybe like put you on a path to where you are now?
Yeah. So I really value my friends who have pointed me in the right direction over the years. And I think I was quite maybe proud at the beginning when I was listening to music. I was like, I've got this, you know, like I don't need recommendations, etc. So, and I think that was when I was really young. And I think for the mental side of things, that's kind of only something that I've recently, and I say recently, like in the last 4 years or something like that, have started to realize, like
there's people
they are like my mentors.
Yeah.
Weirdly, but I've not called them that, and I don't think they know that they're my mentors as well, which is also funny. And I actually, the thing that sparked it was I saw like a tweet. I know it's so bait, and I saw a tweet and it said, "None of my mentors know that they are my mentors," and I actually thought like, oh,
that's really nice, actually.
Isn't that quite nice?
Yeah.
Like, and I think for me, I guess it's all about just having that like cool connection with someone that I really respect and love. And I've got a handful of those as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Yanis from EC2A, huge mentor. I love the way he approaches music. I love the way he's trying to kind of go against that, like the classic like business techno side of things.
Yeah.
Like he's really trying to do his own thing and create something very special. And yeah, he's been just massively kind and helpful. Just a really good friend over the years, and I've learned a lot from him.
That's wicked.
Yeah.
I think thinking about mentors not knowing their mentors, I think it's almost better that way, because it comes from a very like, the mentoring, so to speak, comes from a very authentic place of, oh, I just want to help this person because I like this person, not because I'm a mentor.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like I wouldn't, I'm sure if I thought about it, like there could be a list of people that I'd be like, okay, from a real technical or, career side things, like I should get in touch with them, but it just doesn't feel very authentic to me.
Yeah.
I like having friends that I value, and I think that's what's made it really important. But I will say that in the early days when when I was like learning how to DJ, and I was very new to actual, like, I wouldn't even say the club culture, because again I've been going out for a very long time, but but in terms of like not just the DJ side of it, the music collection, like the general club etiquette that as behind the scenes of things. And I think I've had to have a lot of guidance through that. I mean, quite a lot of it was pretty self-explanatory, but especially with like how to dig for music as well. I think that is an art in itself.
Yeah, weirdly, myself, Matteo, were actually having this conversation before you came. I've never been into like vinyl. Not like I wasn't against vinyl, I just like never really like engaged with it. And recently, like I've moved to that new spot in Camberwell that I mentioned.
Yeah.
And they've got this record shop called Dash for Henge. And it's got like this £1 bin and this £2 bin and really friendly staff. And like, there's almost something really nice about grabbing a coffee, just sort of like flicking through a couple.
Yeah.
And the sort of, the time you spend doing it means that when I take that vinyl home and like pop it on the record player, like I'll listen to it all the way through, and I've got more of an attachment to it. Whereas when you get Spotify, it's almost like, because it's so accessible, how you value it deteriorates.
Completely
Do you know what I mean?
agree. Completely agree with that.
So I'm really into like vinyl at the moment, and I'm just discovering so much music that, I mean, it's £1 bin and £2 bins, so it's nearly all soul, but it's great.
I think they're amazing.
So much good soul music as well.
Yeah,
I'm really into it at the moment. Sorry, I went off on my own little tangent.
Don't you worry. It's always good. I really like hearing how other people appreciate music.
And going back to, you sort of touched on it very quickly there, your sort of first engagement with DJing and producing. Can you tell me a little bit about from when you went from a consumer of music to actually doing music yourself, DJing? Like what was your first like gig experiences like?
So I think my first gig experiences were quite funny, because they were at a time where I was just like, again, going out loads and thinking about like, I think I was in that headspace that like, oh, maybe I would play this song in this place and this song. But I never really deeped it that much. I would just be like, oh, this song would really work into that song. And I'd like always be trying to like guess the next song coming in. And then I met a guy at an afters who now is my agent, Tremaine from 23 Degrees, which is hilarious. Like and it was in Liverpool, and this is, I didn't even know, like 6 years ago, actually probably more now. And he was just, I think he approached it from a very like, it's not that deep to just go out and DJ. Like just, it doesn't have to be this massive thing. Just learn and then play out what you like, because you've got like good taste. So, and he was starting up these quite like nice, well organized, but relatively small at the time parties. And I remember just getting a call up being like, we've got zero budget for this. This is all coming out of my bank, and you're going to get like basically like £20 or something like that. I was like, yep, fine. Like for me, it didn't even matter about that. Yeah. And he's very transparent with me as well. And I started playing out a little bit. And I just absolutely fell in love with the process of it, because I know that people can find playing out quite nerve-wracking as well. And I completely understand that. Like it's quite a lot, but in some way I really enjoyed doing warm-up sets.
Yeah.
Like, I love a warm-up set. I still love a warm-up set, even though there's like, there can be 0 people in the room, and like, everyone starts off to 0 people, and you've got to kind of create and set that vibe. And I was like, actually, you know what, if you're playing good music and you don't need to rely on having this massive reaction to know that you're doing a good job. And I think it was because I practiced so much by myself. And it's a combination of like how much of it is for yourself and how much of it is for the crowd. And you have this like these 2 different like objectives, really. Like you want to be happy with the stuff that you've played, but you've also want to make the crowd happy.
Yeah.
But when you're doing a warm-up set, like there's no crowd. Like,
so there's no pressure.
And I think that's a kind of a way that I managed to find the transition from going from smaller clubs into much bigger clubs way easier, because I was like, a crowd or no crowd, you kind of know what to do for yourself. And there's been many times where I've wanted to do something for myself and it's really paid off with a big crowd as well. So I've kind of like learned to adapt, I guess.
That's wicked.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
I feel like, okay.
So much.
Okay, good.
Were there any obstacles in your like early days DJing? I mean, so you said you got an agent, and had you done anything live before that, or was it like house parties and things like that?
Yeah, so it was like house parties, and actually, to be fair, I didn't DJ at many house parties. I mainly just got my friends who were better than me, and I remember I went all out on a house party once. I've got like actual like Technics, because my friend was such a good DJ. The guy who actually taught me how to DJ, from the absolute like core principles, like I learned on the record box encoded vinyl.
Okay.
So it's actually a really nice way of doing things, weirdly. I think it just gets you in a bit of the motion of how to like what
you get the
what
tangibility of it as well.
Exactly, what you're actually doing, like what does, like you're setting your own cue points, like you are. And I think I really enjoyed that way of learning. And I basically just got him to DJ all the parties because he played all the best music that I loved. So, and I was like, this is going to take a really long time for me to download all these tracks, or I could just get someone, and I could put my trust in a friend. But I didn't, Tremaine didn't start the agency until like way later on down the line.
Okay.
So I was just like free roaming, just doing my own thing. And if someone wanted to book me, then they could just dive in the DMs. But yeah, it just started off with like small little gigs here and there, like a bit of bar stuff, like DJ Society at uni, and then it started to get a little bit bigger, and it felt very. I think the thing that
sorry to keep pulling you back. Was it university when you sort of like first tried your hand at it, or like before you went to uni?
No.
Okay, so is it uni?
So I started at uni. Yeah.
I think the DJ Society is a great way to get into it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I actually didn't join them.
Okay.
Because I think I was quite busy. And I was like, I can't join another society. This is a bit ridiculous.
Too many.
I think too many. I mean, I was really into football when I was studying, and that was kind of like, it was like football and going out were like the 2 best things for me to do.
Go hand in hand as well.
I know they really do. And then I was just, I think the thing that I've found that I've enjoyed the most from that path of not like playing these smaller gigs to the bigger gigs is how organic it's felt to me, because I've never felt the need to rush anything. I've always like built from kind of doing small little things with terrible sound systems. And I think that's the way, that's the way I think most people should go through it, you know? And I think there's also, I've also appreciated that there is no like correct way of doing things. And a lot of old school heads would be like, yeah, you've got to start from like, you know, dingy basements and then you've got to work your way up and, you know.
But I think there's something to that in a way. Definitely. I think like one is being able to learn on the job in a sort of low pressure environment.
Exactly.
And being able to like improve technically at what you do.
100%.
So I remember the psychological side of it as well, like anxiety that comes with bigger shows and stuff like that. So I think there's like a little bit of, there's something to that in a way.
Definitely. And I think I learned a lot about the technical side of things before I was on, had much bigger platforms. And that was, again, just mixing in my friend's room with my friend who was very good at DJing, kind of just being like, oh, like, just listen to the tracks. Don't rush anything. Just like, you know, these 2 tracks, you love them. Like, what are you trying to do with them? And I think it was like, actually putting a lot of thought into what I was doing was incredibly helpful. And I think exactly like starting from making it really technical first and then learning on the job they just kind of run in tandem, I think.
Yeah. And then when you arrive at a place that's more substantial, so to speak, you've already laid the foundation.
Definitely. And it feels like, it's like muscle memory, isn't it? And I think that's majorly beneficial. I will also say that something that helped me was going on radio. I had a first residency with Melodic Distraction, who have now shut down, sadly, in Liverpool. And it was called Eclectic Picks with Fliss. And I used to just play like, I wasn't mixing in some of these shows. I would just literally play tracks that I loved. And I would have like different focuses. So I'd do stuff on like women in R&B, and I just literally play the song, talk about it a little bit, and then just like play the song. I'd probably be like one of those ones like, why are they talking so much? And just play the music. But I think radio gave me a lot of, I would say, confidence behind the decks. Just to plug and play really, and just to get used to the setup. And it was also because it was monthly, I was always going in and just making myself familiar with this like industry setup that you then see when you're, you know, when you rock up to the bigger gigs. Because I think going from a house setup to a club setup is massive. Like it's a huge shock. And you know, when you see like there's so many flashing things and like you've got this mix that you've never used before, and then you see like someone's, you know, accidentally hit the reverse thing and you're hitting your tracks and they're all skipping backwards and you're like, God, what? And I think it's like, knowing the technicals of the actual setup is very important.
And again, like learning in a lower pressured environment.
Exactly. Like radio, if you're not doing like one of the serious like blendy mixes, when you're just playing and talking, that is a low pressure environment. You're not thinking about, okay, what's the next track that I want to play? Like you kind of already have that in mind, and you're just there to kind of talk about the tracks that you like.
That's cool. A little bit of a deep one, but is there an area of, when you look back on all of this, is there an area of development you're most proud of?
Ooh. I think I don't know, that's a really good question. I've not thought about it that much, but I think something that I always had struggled with was like, is my mixing actually good? And is technically, am I good enough to be up here? And I think that was the main imposter syndrome that I did have, and it was kind of getting over those hurdles. And I still struggle, to be fair, I still struggle with it nowadays. I don't think there's like any DJ who's like, I am sick behind the deck. It's like, I've never made a mistake before. Like, that is that is bullshit, you know. And I think it's not necessarily a clear, like, you know, door where I've just gone through it and just been like, oh my gosh, like, that's crazy. I think it's the kind of gradual steps that you make towards kind of like, I guess, you know, honing your craft.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I've been most proud with is the fact that I've done it in a way that feels very authentic to me. So I think something that I've been generally proud of is maybe the authenticity side of it, and like the way that I feel quite confident in myself to pick out good music as well. Like that, there's a lot of things. Yeah.
You know what I've been thinking about recently? It's sort of the anxiety. I deal with some anxiety in a lot of stuff. And starting this interview series, when I did like the first one, I was like hyper anxious about it. But like I was just like, oh, I want to do it, so I'm going to do it, anxiety or not. But what I'm starting to like, so I'm like 5 episodes in now, what I'm starting to realize is like the anxiety doesn't go away, but my sort of confidence in my ability just to do the thing. So like I give less value to the sort of physiological sensations it gives me.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I observe them and it's like, oh yeah, that's the anxiety.
Yeah.
With me.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like,
exactly
so the anxiety doesn't go away, but your ability or your confidence in your ability to just do it, even though like the anxiety is there. I don't know, do you like resonate with that?
Definitely. Yeah. Like it is quite funny how like nervous everything is, and how also the excitement, I guess, is because you have like the anxious one when you genuinely feel awful and you're like, I shouldn't be doing this. And then you have the excitement when you're like, I want to do this. And I'm just like all over the place and I'm not thinking straight and I'm not focused or anything. And to be able to recognize that, because I still get really anxious before gigs. And I think especially as I've developed and the gigs have become more high stake and they just feel a lot bigger. And I think I also set expectations for myself. Like I want to deliver a really good set all the time. And I think there's always that voice in the back of your head that before the set, you're like, oh, you know, what if this goes really badly? Yeah. And then it's kind of combating that and being able to just get your head down and almost do it from fundamentals, I guess. I think that, yeah, you just have to acknowledge that the anxiety never really goes away. But it just gets transformed.
I would say you just become a bit more friendly with it. Yeah. Like anxiety, like whatever anxiety manifests itself in, sometimes it's like sweaty hands or sometimes it's like feeling in your stomach or something. Like I'd say you just like, you're less reactive to those sensations because you like, you know what it is. It has a sort of name.
Definitely.
And you're able to be a bit more like friendly with it.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that is something that a lot of people would benefit from as well, is gaining that sense of like, oh, it's actually going to, like, if I don't, you know, if I don't like let it take over me, everything will be okay. And it's just like, you just focus on yourself. I think at the start, when you've got these feelings of nerves, all you need to do is like basically ground yourself and just think about, okay, like it's almost like having a conversation and you rationalize with yourself in your own head and you think, I've done this loads of times, or I've done this before and it went well. That's actually a really good way. When I'm playing slightly bigger cap venues and there's loads of people, sometimes I just think, you know what, I've done this before. Yeah. It's going to be okay.
I know what I'm doing.
I'm doing. I think people should back themselves a little bit more.
And also, if I do fuck up, like I've fucked up before.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal.
It's not that big a deal. Exactly.
Talking, you briefly touched on it. Some of the shows for yourself are getting a little bit bigger. Like over the last few years you've done. Glastonbury a couple of times. You did a Boiler Room show with Dual Monitor. You recently did. Weirdly, I've got a side tangent. How I came to know of you is I was at Glastonbury, I think it was 3 years ago now, or 2. It's the first time I went to Glastonbury, and I was waiting. You're on an EC2A stage, and I was waiting in the queue. I don't know if you remember the stage. It was sort of like, it doesn't matter, irrelevant.
Yeah.
I was waiting in a queue at the side to go see Scream's secret set.
Oh yes.
And yeah, he had it in a tiny little bus.
The platform.
Or
yeah,
something
yeah,
that.
Platform
Platforms,
23.
that was it. Yeah. I'm also going to get an ID off you after this.
Yeah. I'll try my best.
I've wanted this song for 3 years and then anyway. But yeah, I remember watching you as I waited in the queue and sort of saying to the guys, should we just go watch her? She's doing great.
So funny.
So I just wanted to let you know that.
I had no idea it was through that.
Yeah.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Then I was a fan.
Thanks,
okay,
Rob.
yeah, but anyway, going back, speaking of, these bigger shows that you're doing, can you tell me a bit about your preparation for shows like these?
Sorry, I will just interject. That actually makes so much sense. I had no idea Scream was doing a secret set because I saw him behind my set and I was like, what the hell are you doing here, man? I was like...
see me?
I had no idea. That makes so much sense because I was like, I'll probably never find out, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, sorry. What was the end of the question? I caught
So yeah, thinking about these bigger shows, Glastonbury, Boiler Room, thinking about these bigger shows, can you tell me a little bit about your preparation going into those?
Yeah. So I spend all of my, basically, on average, I would say I spend about 1 or 2 hours a day looking for music, and on the that.
Is this in general?
This is in general.
This is daily habit.
Yeah,
okay.
and what I'll do is I'll think about. I mean, this will be on all different platforms. I do use absolutely every YouTube for all the stuff. Love Bandcamp, obviously, although I think they could work on their genre. I don't know. I can't. I haven't got a solution for them. I think that would really.
They need to figure that out.
They can figure that out. Discogs, Spotify, Beatport. Beatport weirdly has some real good gems. I don't know why I said weirdly. Sorry, Beatport. If they're not going to listen, but maybe they will. And throughout the week, if I kind of have a general schedule of the shows that I'm going to do, regardless how big or small, I will kind of sift and bin them into different folders of I think that would kind of suit that vibe. This is kind of going to suit that vibe. And so over a few weeks, I'll have collected quite a bit of music. And I think the collection part of preparation is the most important part for me. And the kind of, a little bit of practice will go into but I mainly do that on radio mixes and stuff. And I think I'll think about who else is on the lineup. Okay. I've seen a massive, obviously there's always Twitter DJ debates going on about what an opener should do, or what if they're on a big lineup, or what should one play for certain events that they get booked at. Do you play something that's really authentic to yourself, or do you kind of play something that you think would suit the vibe? And for me, I've always been a vibe suiter. Yeah. Call me a people pleaser. I think that's a really good way of doing it because for example, I played for at Greenworks once, and that's in Bristol, and I was conductor and Jeremy Sylvester were playing. They were the headline, and obviously Jeremy Sylvester's the garage god, like the guy himself. Like he wrote, I was speaking to one of my friends, Nathan Evans, about it, and he's like studied Jeremy Sylvester, and apparently throughout the space of like 7 years, he wrote 300 and something tracks, 360 something tracks. Yikes. Like that is
1 a week.
Like basically, right? Isn't that insane? And I think
he must have had Christmas off as well.
So. Right, I know. I don't know exactly, like or 2 a day or something. And I remember approaching that, and I know I just like I research who I'm playing with quite meticulously.
Oh, really?
And that also kind of goes into I never really thought of that, but I kind of do get into like FBI stalker mode, like name and address, and then I like find out what they like to play, because I'm not like, I mean, apart from I've headlined like my own shows twice. I want to say twice. I've got another one coming up soon. But even then, I'll still look at who's playing, and that will be, you know, someone who's mainly who's started off a little bit more recently, and I'll still look at what they're playing, what they're like. I'll look at their radio shows, like look at kind of like.
Is that so you don't like overlap?
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of just what can I offer that would complement it nicely, even if it's like a little tiny section. And I think in that way, I mean, especially on a night, I quite like the idea of like curating a whole atmosphere. And I think the best nights that I've ever been on are the ones that just make sense. You know, they're not whiplashing from A to B to like going really hard early to like quite a slowish, sluggy vibe, and later on like those have never really made much sense to me unless they're like more like showcasey sets. You know, when I think there was a really good Keep Hush that happened in Manchester the other day, and they had all sorts of people playing, but it was so cool, and it felt like a showcase because everyone was going up there and just doing what they did best. But I think preparation for me is research on the people, research the club and the city as well. I think that's like what's something that they like, even if you're not going to play like a load of speed garage. But I think there's sometimes one tasty speed garage track kind of works in a set, and because it's like. And I've noticed this. I think, I can't remember who did something like that, but they played like this really beautiful house set, and this house set kind of just like evolved into kind of like the kind of US-y garage style thing, and then suddenly just like one very, very good speed garage track, and it just brought this burst of energy, and then they just went back into house, and the whole crowd was just vibing after that, and it was just really. It's really cool.
I love this idea of sort of long, very like well thought out, curated sets. I was reading I think it's like a Mixed Mag article or something like that, which sort of explained the sort of change in how club sets are approached. And this guy who was sort of writing about it was talking about the smoking ban being... no,
just let people smoke in clubs.
But he was talking about the smoking ban being like a pivotal point, because apparently before that, according to him, people would smoke inside and they would be there for the whole set, so the DJ had confidence that like the audience would be engaged throughout, so they could start off slow and soft, and they could evolve it. And it's just a bit interesting, because actually I feel like in festivals where people can smoke outside, you do get that. Whereas in clubs, it's almost like sometimes there's this, I don't know if you agree with this, but sometimes there's this need to stay super high, super energetic for long periods of time, because the DJ knows people are just like dropping in and out, and they're going smoking every 3 songs or something like that. Yeah.
I also read that article.
Oh,
Funny.
did you?
Yeah. And I completely agree with it. And I will actually give a counterpoint to that.
Okay.
My counterpoint is that vaping has kind of saved that in a weird little twisted way.
Yeah,
like
'cause you can,
everyone just huffing off their like little mango kiwi little Lost Marys, and I genuinely think like people have like stay for longer because they don't want to go outside to smoke. Like let's say it's a cold winter's day, and they just if they've just got their little vape, they're just chugging away in the club. So maybe that has kind of brought people in, but I totally get what you mean. And weirdly, I think I completely agree with the people coming in and out and maybe giving the DJ less confidence because they feel like they need to play bangers after bangers and keep the people in. And I think from a personal view, I've never been that worried about people going in and out. Like, I don't think it's that deep. Like, and at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I'm playing the tracks that I like. Like, I like playing these tracks. I know these are good tracks as well. And so they're probably just going out for a smoke. So I try not to deep it so much.
I mean, in a weird way, your approach sort of takes care of that because like you're playing the music for yourself.
Yeah.
So there's less observation of the crowd or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that kind of all falls into, I mean, I guess this goes back to the preparation is just like doing a really good dive into good music that will suit the vibe, suit the crowd, suit like whenever you're playing, if it's got like, I don't know, just kind of adding context to to where you're playing. And then kind of backing yourself as well a little bit, backing your choices. And I think that really that type of prep goes a long way. Yeah,
definitely.
But yeah, it is wild how much preparation I put into something. Sometimes
it sounds like it.
But I don't really but I think for the higher stakes one, especially like the Boiler Room, none of the audio was captured or there was no video either. And I've got another one coming up in December, and I think we might just see if we can get the audio. But with that stuff, it's like it is a bit weird because you do think about it slightly differently. You're like, oh, like should I actually be planning this from A to B, like every single song selection? And I think because I did it with my production partner Zeb, for the first one we actually, like at the very beginning, we had a very rigid we're going to play this and this, and this will really work for this, because it was like massive warehouse vibes. Like what? I don't even know how big the cap was, like 4,000 or something like that. Okay. 3,000, I might be.
Yeah, big then.
Huge. And I think I remember like halfway, we just looked at each other. We were like, we've done this before. Like it doesn't matter if it's in a warehouse. And then we started just playing whatever, and it.
Oh, so you went in with the intention to be quite rigid, and then like halfway through the set, you decided.
Yeah, we were like, you know what? That. No, this isn't. It doesn't feel very us. And I think we'll have like instead of doing what we did last time, I think for the way that we'll approach for this one. I mean, we haven't actually spoken about this, so maybe I'm just putting words into his mouth. But I still think there's probably likely something we'll do is we'll kind of have a general like mood board, like a Pinterest mood board, but for music, being like, okay, like what do you want to do? Like, do you want to speed things up? Do you want to slow things down? And we both have very similar tastes. So I think it'll be mostly thinking about like what approach we want to take to it. Like what vibe? Do we want it to be dusty? Do we want it to be like really bumpy and lively? Do we want it to be quite trippy and a bit like, weird little trips? And like how can we then, if we're doing that, how can we then make it nice and like cohesive? Yeah, so I think, but the bigger ones that have the higher stakes annoyingly have a little bit more thought into them, but it doesn't mean that I mean,
it's understandable, right?
Yeah, but I don't feel weird. It feels almost disrespectful to say that, to like what's the difference between like doing a smaller gig?
I don't think it's disrespectful on the gig. I think it's like on you as a person. You like maybe put other gigs on a pedestal, not that you put smaller gigs lower.
But do you get what I mean about it? It seems disrespectful.
Yeah,
but
I get that.
Yeah, but I really like when I'm actually on when, you know, I'm actually up there on the stage, that they are the same, completely the same in my mind. And like, yeah, usually, I mean, you've probably spoken to a lot of DJs who've just been like, yeah, the smaller ones are the best. And, you know, I love the small gig. Like they are the best because they're so fun and they're so rowdy and they're so intimate. And I think that gets like thrown around a lot with people saying that they'd prefer smaller gigs. But I think that is the reality, is that they are more fun.
Yeah.
Even though slightly less maybe prep goes into it, or psyching yourself up, you know.
But then maybe it's more natural as well. I feel like this interview, we're chatting so much. It's going to be a long interview, but I do want to get onto Dual Monitor, but just before that, tell me what makes a really good venue from a DJ's perspective. You sort of touched on it a little bit there about like being a bit more intimate, but what are your favourite venues in the UK and why?
Okay, so I like no stages. Okay. No, like everything should be on flat floor, in my opinion.
I've got a really funny story. Sorry, I have this habit of like when I've latched onto an idea.
Go.
Offerings, the name of the interview series, started out as like a party, like a DIY party. We were like throwing it in like cool spaces and stuff like that. Me and my friend James was sort of talking about what like setup it should be. Should it be like a stage? Should it be in with the crowd? Should it be like in the corner and no one can see him or anything like that? And we were talking about the idea of a stage, and he said like it kind of reminds me of like a priest and like on like an altar or something like that, and waiting for like people to like come and like give offerings. And then he said like offerings, and I was like
drink tokens.
And then I was like, that's a really cool name, offerings, and that's how it came up.
Oh wait, stop it!
Yeah, it was literally the story.
That is so good.
It's great, isn't it? I've never told anyone that. Like, there you go, public. There's a.
That is some great offerings law. Thank you. I mean, that's the court law, isn't it?
Sorry, I've interrupted you.
Venues. Okay. So I also enjoy a square club. Pillars optional, whatever. And then I like the idea of there being like a lot of, so not just speakers at the front. I like speakers at the front of the stage, and then at the back of the room as well. So it gives people the option of dancing kind of anywhere in the room. I think a good example of this is Soup in Manchester.
Okay.
They've just got like so they've got the front rigs, and then they have these two rigs that kind of are sat kind of in the middle of a dance floor. Yeah. And you just don't you think that people would just hide behind them and dance, but it really makes people spread out on the dance floor.
What do you mean rigs? So I'm not familiar with,
just
never
like
been to Manchester.
A substack and a top.
Okay.
Yeah, so and it's huge. I mean, it's not small. It's not like whacking one of these.
And they just bang it in the middle of a room.
Bang it in the middle of a room.
Love that.
And I love it. It makes it spreads out people. I feel like
because they don't want to stand too close to it, maybe.
Yeah, or if people like the dubsteppy heads want to put their whole head in the rig, that they can do that if they want to. But it means that the balance of sound is nice and cohesive throughout the room. I mean, the best club, I've not played there, but the best club I've been to is the White Hotel in Manchester. But that is kind of like on a bit of a stage, I guess, because it's in a caged box. Yeah. But it's just the way that the people are in that venue makes the club fantastic. So it's a weird one. I think good clubs should have nice people on the door, nice security, generally nice people who work there, an interesting variety of different styles of music, I think is a great thing as well, and good sound. So, but also there are some like incredibly good big venues as well. And I think one of them that I've really enjoyed was Coco in Camden.
Oh, I know one, yeah.
Yeah, I supported Salute there, and that was just nuts. Like, sound was off the charts.
Yeah, the sound system's really good there, isn't it?
It was mad. Like, I was bricking it for that one. Like, that was a classic one of me really, really bricking it. But again, getting up there and being like, oh, you've done this before. But the sound was just so crisp.
Have you ever been to Roundhouse?
Yes.
I found something out really cool the other day. Their floor, and I thought of it just now because earlier you were talking about going to see Subtract and the bass like going through you.
Yeah.
Their floor is specially designed to like absorb sub frequencies, and then like it travels up your body. How mad is
that? So it kind of vibrates a little bit.
Yeah, like it's a very specific material apparently.
No way.
So then, regardless of where you are in the room, like it will go through the floor and up your body. How mad is that?
That is so cool.
It's so cool.
I wonder when they've had that, because I've been to many gigs in the Roundhouse, and I've always thought sick venue, like especially live music there. But I would love to remember that. It's been a very long time, to be fair, since I've been there.
I think I went ages ago. I went to see like Bonobo like 4 years ago now.
I think it's a special venue, that place.
Yeah, it's
like,
a nice
it
venue.
really is, yeah.
It's got all the pillars on the like outside as well in the main circle. Yeah, that's a really nice venue for a bigger one as well. Because I think I'm quite similar to you. I like intimate as a enjoyer of music, not as DJing. I enjoy sort of almost like not too packed, because I want like a bit of space to move, and smaller venues.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about them. They're just like special. I really like Corsica's probably my favourite.
Corsica is phenomenal. Sweaty though.
Yeah.
Sweaty venue. And again, another classic example of the people who work there are really, really nice as well. And it does give a nice atmosphere. It changes the atmosphere a little bit. Also, Sneaky Pete's in Edinburgh is phenomenal, and I think I might go there this Thursday and see a friend who's playing.
Okay, sick.
But that type of venue, again, it's a small box, and it absolutely slaps. Like it's brilliant. I love the people who work there because they've got a real passion for promoting like Scottish artists as well, and they tend to be a little bit more strict on their the way that they program their nights.
Okay.
And I respect that. I quite like clubs that take pride in what they like, the nights that they put on.
What do you mean strict?
So they'll say that, you know, there should only be a certain amount of people on the lineup to really give them, because I'm not a fan of 45-minute slots.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe that the people being offered them, unless it's maybe like a warm up at like 10 p.m. or something like that.
Okay.
But they tend to be a little bit more strict about how many artists are on one lineup. And
I love that, actually. They're not trying to do the capitalist approach of like, where's the profit margin? How much can we do for as little money, and yada yada. Like,
exactly.
That's quite cool.
Like not cramming, just like
not cramming. Yeah.
Yeah, making the kind of the night speak for itself in that way.
Right. Enough about venues. Let's talk about dual monitor.
Yeah, sure.
For those who don't know about dual monitor, I'm not sure there'll be many people, but talk to me about like how that started. How do you guys like kick that off?
So I moved to Bristol off kind of when the restrictions started loosening up. So I think about 2021. And when I was living there, I literally like knew no one. And Bristol has been a really important part of my life. It's where I've met like the Idle Hands owner, Chris Farrell, who has, again, one of the mentors that doesn't know he's my mentor. But I was just kind of putting myself out there, just like going on nights out and just meeting new people and being like, oh, like we'd get along, and I'd be like, let's go out again together. And that's how I met like Will, who goes by Pluralist, Durango, and like some other the big Bristol techno people. And I think because I didn't have many friends there, I was like thinking about who I should message, and suddenly I got this message from my friend, and she said, "Oh, you really need to meet my friend Zeb and his friend Alec." And Alec was ill that day, and Zeb almost pulled out of being like, this was like being set up on a friendship date, and Zeb didn't pull out. We ended up just having like one-on-one time together at a pub, Christmas Steps, in Bristol, and we ended up like yapping about music for hours and just general life and stuff like that. And we immediately got along well. Like, he's such a lovely person, very, very easy to get along with. And he was telling me about like how he started making music in lockdown. And I was like, oh, same. Little did I know that his approach with starting making music in lockdown was like actually like commit to the bit, and he was like producing for 6 hours a day, and I was like producing for like 1 hour, doing my an MSc project, and then like bashing out Call of Duty Warzone. It was a problem. Glad that's over. And then he was just like, yeah, come around, like we should go to Pirate. So we went to Pirate for a mix, and that was like quite a funny mix because I could hear his influences and he could hear mine. And I was very much kind of playing a lot of garage at that time, and he was really into like I think like more like house and melodic stuff, and then he was like, you know what, we should show me what you've been working on music wise. And he's a very, very good producer, and much better than I am. And I went around, and he had this little room set up, and I just listened to all the stuff he made. He listened to the stuff that I made, and then we started like making stuff together. I mean, it was just fun. Like that was how we approached it. And then we started making more stuff, and then that stuff started sounding a little bit good, and then we were like, interesting. And then I just remember I was like, I think he actually maybe asked me, he was like, do you want to like turn this into a project? I was like, sure. And then he was like, oh, what should we be called? And I immediately was just like, dual monitor. Like, I love a dual monitor setup. Like I have some at work that I use, and it's just sliding the screens around, and you're like, I'm so plugged in right now. And then that's how it started. And we were not fixed on working on any genres or anything, so that's why we're like, if you look at the discography, like it's quite a strange collection of like there's nothing that bins it into any boxes, but it has maybe some like particular sounds, like a lot of metallic noises, and then because again at the same time, luckily, because I was speaking to a lot of people, we found that it was quite easy to send our stuff out to people on labels, and we didn't really like have it has to be on that label, like this is so sick, it's got to be on that label. We would just make it and then send it off, and then we got a message from Yanis being like, would love to have it on there, on EC2A as a free download. And we were like, yeah, sound
nice.
And then, but because we lived in the same city for a year, and then I had to move back up to Liverpool.
Okay.
And then Zeb's now living back at home, just like outside of Cambridge, like around Essex, and we do quite a lot of remote sessions. I mean, like any skill, I think I have a lot to learn, and I'm still doing a lot of learning. And there are some times where I feel super confident and I'm able to bash out a track, not like to the perfect level of this is ready to get masters, or sometimes I just sit there and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Zeb is a lot more consistent.
Don't we all though?
Yeah, I know. But I love getting in the studio and working with Zeb, because we really do bounce off each other.
Yeah. Tell me about that then. Tell me about your writing approach now, because you're saying you're doing a little bit of remote stuff, but when you do get into a studio, tell me about like your approach there. Are there certain roles you guys have? Do you lean on one another for specific things like that?
Yeah, so Zeb's got a phenomenal ear for like mix downs and making sure things sound really cohesive, and like the core sciencey part of sound being like, okay, well, shouldn't put a kick there, like not sorry in terms of like where the kick should be, but like the kind of frequencies that you're letting in, so that the bass and the kick aren't fighting, and all the lower perks aren't fighting either. So he's really good with the technical stuff, and also brilliant as a brilliant songwriter in general.
Yeah.
And I think I've mostly recently been thinking about grooves and how things sound like quite cohesive. And I've just, for example, we met on Monday, so is that yesterday? Yeah, literally yesterday in the studio.
Did you find your studio?
Did
by
find
the way?
the studio. I mean, it was just Pirate in the end, but we both had 2 different tracks, and we didn't really. Basically, early on, like last week, he was like, "Oh, I've just made something that's like quite like dubby, techno-y, Alwyn inspired," and I was like, "Oh, like I love Alwyn. Like maybe I should just go." And so we just made these tracks, and then we just showed them to each other in the studio yesterday, and they would sound really good on an EP together. So we were kind of just like fine tuning a bit here and there.
I love that you guys have sort of almost like gone away and then come together and just been like, this is what I made, this is what you made. Yeah. How can we like now merge them to meet in the middle as like an EP?
Exactly. And I think those 2 tracks would be really beautiful together. But, you know, we both have... He's definitely massive on like keeping tracks dynamic and keeping like different changes like every 8 or 16 bars. And I'm less good at that. It doesn't mean I dislike them. I would love to know how he does it. And then but we're both pretty good at certain things. Like I quite like melody writing. It's always sat nicely with me. And he's really, really, really good at rhythms, like phenomenally good.
Yeah. You can hear that in a lot of dual monitor stuff, I'd say.
Like he's got it he just like, it's crazy. Like and it's hilarious. Like if you see those memes that like the life of a producer, and it's literally like, what he'll do is he'll have like a kick or a snare or something, and he'll like be trying to place it on the grid to sound like really good, and he'll do like 4 or 5 variations, but quickly, like very quickly. And it'd be like pause play, and it'd be like and they sound very, very similar, or they could be okay. And then he like places the kick in this one section. I'm like, and then we both look at each other, we're like, that's the one. And it literally sounds like it doesn't sound much different, but it does to us. So in some way, I think working together in a studio, and I'm hoping to move back down to London after I qualify with this job that I'm doing, and I would love to spend more time in the studio together, because we do bounce really well off each other. And I think it's having that extra pair of ears as well, because he'll be like, okay, what do you think about this? And I'm like that. There's something that's just not working with it.
I can imagine as well, like having the extra pair of ears makes it a bit, I mean, doing stuff on your own in a room, a little bit isolated. I think maybe sometimes the opposite is true, where like you think there are problems in a place where there aren't.
Exactly.
Yeah. And having someone there to be like, no, that's good.
That's good. Yeah.
And then, as you said, like also just being able to bounce off one another.
Exactly, yeah. So that's kind of like the way that we approach production. And we also get really inspired from, because we've done a lot of festivals together where we've literally been like, he's been working, then after his shift he comes over, and I'm just like stood there, and we share a pint, we break bread at the back of the venue together, and we just like listen to it, and we just talk about it when sometimes we're like, oh, like we should make something like this, you know?
Yeah.
So we get really inspired with collected, like shared experiences or gigs that we've gone to, and we listen to stuff in them. We're like, that sounds really cool. We should we could do something like that. So we're still in a very like exploratory phase of music creation, and I personally really like that.
That's really nice. No, I think it's a great place to be. And and it sort of leads me on to sort of where I want to finish the interview, which is talking a bit about creative processes and approaches. Can you tell me if outside of music, do you have any creative pursuits?
Well, I'd say music is the main creative pursuit. I am not good at, like, I wish I was good at graphic design or anything art related. Not really, no. It's just like I am very, very one track mind.
You found your thing and you're like,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
The other job that I have is like a lot more like applied because I study physics at uni and I'm doing like medical physics, but I'm training as that in a hospital in Liverpool. So there's a lot. So I'm very much like, they've got my creative job and then I've got my like STEM job.
Music production as well, though, is like a little bit of physics in there.
Yeah, a lot.
Like sound waves.
Well, I did
audio.
I did a module, and it was on like the physics of sound waves or the physics of music. That's what it was called. And I learned a lot about like oscillators and stuff like that. And I wish I could record it and put it to more use, but I think there's the theory side of things, and like I understand what the like. I know in my bio it says founder of the sine and cosine function. Well, I can do the math of it, but I think applying it then to music is where that like has to be that extra thought and that kind of input of creativity. So, but yeah, I've got the STEM job, I've got the music job, and they both make me very tired, but in a good way.
That's good. When do you feel most creative?
It's so hard to predict. So hard. And I think I would say it's after a festival. After a music festival, I'm like, wow, like there are like you get to see so many people who play very, very good stuff. And I think that is kind of like, it's kind of like hearing tracks in a certain setting, and it's kind of a whole emotional attachment that gets packaged after you get back from a festival, and then you recall these memories and you're like, whoa, and then like suddenly the brain just like goes like all sparks.
The dopamine comes back. And
I'm like, oh my god, like that I've got get all this like excitement of things that I want to do, things that I want to see, and like styles that I want to play. Like if I've got a certain gig and I'm like, you know what, the stuff that I heard on that stage then, like that type of vibe, I really want to like capture that, or like not imitate it, but like create something that feels like how I felt when I was there. That's a very, very
I completely
I
get what you're saying completely, and I feel like trying to incorporate an influence, like how do you go about that? That's can sometimes be quite a sort of, well, how do I I heard this thing and it's inspired me, but then like almost like the figuring out how to apply that in your own work is a bit of a puzzle itself, right?
Well, definitely. I think with DJing, I get really so after, for example, if I go see someone like the Zenka Brothers or something like that, I saw them at Outlook this year, and I just remember being like, whoa, these tracks are really cool. And when I got back, it was about just that creativity was funneled into just digging for music. And you know, I think there has to be a creative element when you're digging for music, and I think that's where I managed to apply it. I was like, oh, I really like the sound of that, like that could work in that form of setting. And then other times when I'm like, okay, I want to create this kind of feeling or this sound that I heard on this night. Okay, instead of trying to create a song or write a track, I'm gonna just search for samples that kind of sound like that sensation that you get, or like the kind of like, I remember I wrote a very strange track. I've got to say, I think I'd been up for a little bit too long, but the track was like based around the feeling of listening to music at this Bob's at Outlook.
Okay.
And it was like the way that the music kind of bounces off the trees almost, like because like all they have the massive rigs at the front, and then the further you go back, like you can hear this kind of echo, and it kind of it diminishes a little bit. And also, I was just thinking, right, how can I like emulate that? And I think it was like to create this. For me, it was like creating this echo sound that like sounds like you're walking away from the stage. Yeah. And I was just like, that really inspired me. But again, it was like, I think it's mostly like seeing people play sets that really, really inspires me.
Yeah.
But it's a very strange way of looking at it, I guess. Like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, should have just gone to bed.
Well, you sort of touched on it there, but what about functionality of a tune? Do you start to think about that before you write, or because I know a lot of people, they just write without an idea in mind, and then the idea comes to them. But do you ever like think about functionality of a tune, like, oh, this might work at this venue or this place in a set, and like, is there an intention ever there when you're writing?
I think so. There's again a lot of Twitter debate on whether you should write with intention, and I think for stuff like album work, I think intent is really important. But for other things like if you're just sitting down and writing a track, like the inspiration can come as you go. Can come as you carry on and as the time progresses, or it can take a very sharp turn when you have like something set in mind. And you're like, you know what, this really isn't working. Why don't we remove this breakbeat, and why don't we put like a heavy 4/4 kick with like very minimalist little echoes and drabs here and there. Like, but I think it's quite instinctive for me, as opposed to like setting out with a task. And I wish I could be better at thinking, okay, like I really want to write a really sick garage track, or I really want to write like a housey track or something like that, and just sitting out and getting it done. But sometimes I will just be on Ableton, and then I'll just be writing a track, and it'll be about 130 beats per minute, and then I'll just be like,
it's not working,
and I just grab the tempo and just bring it down to 100 BPM, take away a load of the elements, and then just rebuild from scratch. And I think being not very precious with ideas has helped me.
No, I 100% agree with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with writing with intention if it can like kickstart an idea and you've taken inspiration from somewhere with the same context. But also being able to see that an idea has been boxed into a place that it shouldn't be, and not trying to keep it there. I think in my own like production approach, that's usually resulted in like frustration, or just like an idea that's not working out, like not holding on too much to an idea. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with writing with intention. I think it's a good thing, but also at the same time, if it's not working, then don't like hold on to it too strongly.
Completely agree. Being flexible and just being able to like not being able to
That's a better way of saying it in one sentence.
Yeah, being flexible. But it's like you can use so many of the elements, because they're probably really, really good elements. But like,
yeah, that's true. Like there's still stuff there. Like
there's stuff there, exactly.
There's stuff there that can be repurposed. So don't hold on to it too harshly.
That's the best bit of advice, I think.
I've got one more question for you. It's a bit of a deep one.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is it about what you do that you love? What drives you, and what is it that gives you fulfillment?
I would really say it's giving people the opportunity to be like completely free on the dance floor. And I think just dancing is probably the most thing. And I'm a terrible dancer, so it's funny that I'm like, that is the most important thing. But you know, you don't have to be a good dancer to enjoy the clubs. But seeing people like dance to music that you're playing, or music that you've made when you're playing, is massive. And I think I do. The thing is, we could go into a very long conversation about like the word community in itself, but building that in the form of like, you know, the people that you see on a night out, like the faces that you start to recognize, and just chatting to people, and hearing what inspires them. Even this can be like people who've written music for a really long time, who've been in the industry for a really long time, or someone who's like relatively new to the club scene. I think for me, it's the thing that fulfills me the most is hearing how many people have like so many positive experiences from just going out, and the kind of togetherness.
And I imagine it's a really nice feeling knowing that you're a part of that. Definitely. And you get to give that to people. Definitely.
And I think being that person that, you know, a promoter has trusted, they're like, okay, we trust you to do this. And I'm like, Jesus. But that's really cool in itself. Like, I sometimes think about that and I'm like, oh, like they do actually want to hear my stuff, or like they want to hear what the music that I've been collecting, because it's very much like a, you know, you're playing some, like you are not meant to be the main like as a DJ you're not meant to be the main focus in my opinion. It's still not.
Well, that's a whole of a rabbit hole.
Nother conversation. But it's like how making the night about just not like yourself, it's like the collective experience. And you can just tell.
There's also an irony there, because your approach is, I'm just going to focus on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that's not you putting yourself as like the main character. Yeah. That's you just understanding that the promoter's paid for sort of what I can bring. So I'm just going to focus on that to give the audience what I hope I can give them.
Yeah.
Right, cool. That's a great plan.
Yeah.
Listen, it's been an absolute. I'm really grateful you sort of like carved out the time to come down and chat with me. Before we get into the mix, is there any like thing you want to plug? Anything you got upcoming? You don't have to, but
well, me and Zeb will be playing at Venue MOT with Kaiso San. There's a really, really cool lineup for that.
Okay,
it's Pluralist, yours truly, Bing, ADHD, and Cosworth. So sick. It's a loaded night. Should be really fun. So that's on the 29th, which is a Friday, November.
Okay.
Or is that the 28th?
This might not go live.
Okay. In that case, I might be supporting Salute in Brixton.
Oh, sick. Okay.
I am, I think, which should be really fun. And then, so yeah, watch this space. What? And then for those who live in Dublin, I'll be there on the 12th for a headline gig at Tengu, which is really cool.
Sick. You're going to Ireland.
I'm going to Ireland.
That's grand, that is.
It's grand.
It's grand.
It's grand.
Again, mate, thank you so much for coming down.
Thanks so much.
Really, really interesting chat.
Thank you. And shout out to Mode London as well for having us.
Shout out to Mode. Yeah. Up next, Fliss Mayo's on the decks.
todo mi cuerpo. Lo siento en todo mi cuerpo. Pero lo siento en todo mi cuerpo y solo quiero mover. Solo me quiero mover. Pero solo me quiero mover todo mi cuerpo. wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 kiki. Dice ella wanna kiki, 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 Badness thing it can't work. 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 Oh no, no badness. Badness thing it can't work. Badness thing it can't work.
why you so certy? Brothers know I go ham, but the Sanders like Bernie. Yes, bitch, I'm a dog, and I go wolf like Bertie. And I got tickets in the field, bully him like Van Persie. Alternation, I'm swervy. So high tonight in a party. No sick of this at iCarly. Looking gorgeous sipping Bacardi. And a bad thing she tryna get naughty. Sad she looks like a Barbie. I'm saying Robbie bully so gnarly. Got a bad thing she looks like a Lee. I can't find my weed, my phone and my car. Bad bitch tryna finesse, get swerved on. Man better switch lanes. Ain't gonna stop till I get some diamond rings and a big chain. Nice. Y'all saying what? Man, I so real. Man, I never gonna change. Man try send for me, but I swerve that. Man, I like Luke Cage. And I be swerving the lanes. Yeah, I be getting this dough and doing these shows. Yeah, I'm getting paid. That team doing the split. All up on the dick. I'm going insane. But they stay always chat shit until they get hit with the yoga flame. Man, you lame. But see me, I'm tryna get stoned. I'm so hot like hell, and I shine bright like chrome. Wow. You man chilling like snow, like say you go home. Medical piff to my lungs, medical piff to the dome. But there's no I'm sitting on the throne. I flip up the beat, I turn it around, then I compress that. I'm so fly like a jetpack. Came in a Rebel jet black. See the price of my tech like that. See a baddie with a fat back. See a baddie, I might press that. See look nice like Snapchat. Hey. Brothers know I go ham, bunning, I'm in Amsterdam. Brothers lacking what a sham, I keep the far from Ram. Look at the tick on my crepes, you know I just pull up a vex. Nice. I'm cashing these checks, I'm coming like I'm Ash Bet. Whoa, on Ayrton, why you so certy? Like how? Brothers know I go ham, but the Sanders like Bernie. Yes, bitch, I'm a dog, then I go wolf like Bertie. And I got tickets in the field, bully him like Van Persie. Alternation, I'm swervy. Why you so certy? Like how? Brothers know I go ham, but the Sanders like Bernie. Ayrton, why you so certy? How? Brothers know I go ham, but the Sanders like Bernie. Yes, bitch, I'm a dog, man I go wolf like Bertie. And I got tickets in the field, bully him like Van Persie. Alternation, I'm swervy.
Mo.